is the University of Michigan.
Touchdown, Michigan!
And midcourt, extra pass.
And it goes for the win! The three-pointer by Jordan Poole! Down the sideline! Peoples-Jones! Touchdown, Wolverine!
All right, welcome to Blue by 90. I am Justin, joined by Jack and Kaylin, and today we have a special guest joining us. It is Derek Feldkamp, former Michigan baseball player. Derek, how are you doing today?
Good, guys. What's going on?
Welcome.
Not
Thanks for
much.
coming.
Did you have a good holiday?
I did. Got everything I asked for Christmas. Which was a lot of golf balls. So I was happy by that. My in-laws were actually really funny. They got me some of the Strixon golf ball deals, and then they got the personalized message, and it says, if you find this ball, you're shitty too. So I was like, that's good. So that's all I was asking for. So
That's amazing.
but then I pulled the all-time move. I have a 2-year-old nephew, and my wife and I are pregnant, and we're due in April. And we got a first, and but I figured out the 2-year-old is just starting to understand like Santa, right? Like he's just starting to get it. So I bought myself a gift. I fucking wrapped it, and then I put to Derek from Santa, and I put it underneath the tree. No one else knew. So then everybody was like, he's handing out the gifts. I'm like, well, bring that gift from Santa, and they're all looking around. My wife and my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, her parents, and I opened up my golf club that I got. That was like, yeah, it was like Santa exists. So I'm like, do you want to spoil it for him and tell him that Santa doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to get yelled at in the car ride?
Well played. They're probably sitting here like, we don't even like this guy. Who got him a present?
Yeah, pretty much. So there you go.
Oh, gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it. So you graduated in 2006. We were just talking about it. You were part of probably the first draft class ever with that many first graduating class ever with that many draftees, right? Which you said was 9?
Yeah, I think we had 9 guys drafted. And I'm pretty sure I'm sure in the 80s when you guys weren't even a glimmer in your dad's you-know-what yet. But they were awesome. They went to, with Larkin, Barry Larkin, and Sabo, and they had the entire starting. So 3/4 of the starting infield for the Cincinnati Reds that won the World Series in 1990 all went to Michigan at the same time, which is insanity.
Unbelievable.
Wild.
If you think about it, Hal Morris was the first base, Sabo at third, and Larkin at short. So I'm sure that they had some draft picks, and there were more draft rounds back then. There were 50 when I was there. Now it's way less. Obviously, all the rules have changed in the last 3 or 4 years. But yeah, we had a good crop and had a good crew. We weren't able to win the Big Ten championship, but we're able to do some pretty cool things. So
yeah, and you were drafted as well and got a little time in the minors. And did you play in the majors?
No, I got up to Double-A, and I got to play. I got drafted by Tampa. So I actually knew a lot of the guys that played in the World Series in 2008. So I got drafted in 2005. And so when they made it and played the Phillies and lost, which was really cool. But, yeah, like Evan Longoria was the draft class below me, was on our team the whole time coming up. Wade Davis, who was the World Series MVP for the Royals, the closer, was a Tampa Bay guy. So we were pretty good. We had a really good crop of guys, too, and it was pretty crazy.
That's awesome. And then you were down in Omaha last year as well, right?
Yes.
Last year for Michigan when they were in the College World Series. And I know you told me some stories about how just awesome that was to be a part of it, and just like it had been a long time coming for that, right? And so it was quite the celebration just for them to even be in that position.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, Chris Fetter was a teammate of mine for 1 year. He redshirted when I was a junior. He was a redshirt, and just a great guy. And we kind of got together. We had like a little alumni thing, and we actually played Indiana and they lost on a Friday night. They were like rolling, and I think Carl Kaufman pitched and got railed, like shelled, and like we're like, holy, this team's any good? None of us really knew. Obviously, they were having a good year. But then everything comes together, like that, and just you've got crazy stuff that happens, and you get great pitching performances. And yeah, I mean, we've always told, there was like 4 or 5 of us that all graduated, and we always said, hey, if they ever make it to Omaha, we're going. It's a no-brainer. Drop everything you do. Don't care where you're at in the country. Everybody's going. It was a blast. I jokingly told my dad I was furious with him because I was like, this is the coolest place in the world for a kid, because literally the entire outfield in downtown Omaha, like there's an entire 2 parking lots. They call it Baseball Village, and there's everything for a 12-year-old kid. I mean, everything you can imagine, every souvenir you can imagine, and just everything. It's really, really cool. But just the way the whole town and everything you can walk to gravitates to it. It was unbelievable. I mean, it's the best weekend I've ever had in probably for baseball, just fun, because I went to the first weekend, so I saw the first 2 games, but then that way you can see everybody play. So there's 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. I extended my trip out until Tuesday morning to watch them play the first 2 games, but it was fantastic. So
yeah, I mean, that was we all watched on on TV and followed it along. I mean, it was just like, first of all, just the like pulse that team had and the identity that they had was like, you could not. I bet you there were so many people out there that are just casual fans that took a liking to Michigan because of the way they played with intensity and fire. And it's like, I think the basketball team has that same type of thing, and did under Beeline, now does under Juwan too. But it's like, that's what we want so bad from football, and it just doesn't seem to happen. But so it was so great to watch that from a team, and even though we were back here in Ann Arbor watching it in Omaha, it was just like, holy shit, you just love to see them play with that intensity and like family and all that stuff.
That's also the second time I've heard that Omaha is like an awesome place, because we had an opportunity to talk to Ben Kaiser, one of the pitchers, and he said exactly the same thing. He was like, Omaha is amazing from a pitcher's perspective and a player's perspective as well. So, I mean, it's like every time someone comes on here and talks about it, this place keeps going higher and higher on my like to travel list.
I mean, it's a hidden gem. I mean, outside of like Warren Buffett, I didn't know anything about Omaha other than the College World Series was there, right? Like I don't, and then all of a sudden, I'm watching this thing, and Kalen, you hit it right on the head, Ben. I mean, everybody, the whole town shuts down. I mean, it's literally like a Williamsport Little League World Series type feel for this. That's the only thing I could compare it to is my dad took me when I was 12 to Williamsport, and it was like, that's the coolest thing ever when you're 12. And then now I'm a 35-year-old man, and I'm like, this is still the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then my last story from there is the first game, we get into it, and now you're nervous. You're a former player. You're actually invested. Texas Tech had crushed Michigan earlier in the season. We actually had some Texas Tech people at the hotel. They were fantastically nice. But it was so funny because they sold beer at the stadium, which was unbelievable to us. And
oh yeah,
Brett, since Justin and I know the ticket guy put us, it's 100 degrees humidity. He puts us right underneath the last row on the aisle so we could get out to the concession stand and the bathrooms. Well, so now I'm sitting with all my former teammates. Nobody's got their wives or husband or kids there, or girlfriends. It's just the dudes. You're reacquainted, right? Now imagine this. Like, so now we're all nervous. So we're drinking heavily. And in the game, my buddy's sitting next to me, my best man at my wedding, and he's a former player. His dad played at Michigan back in the 70s, played in the big leagues for 12 years. This kid, my buddy, was from Dallas, Texas, was going to Michigan his whole life. His dad played for the Rangers, which is why he grew up in Arlington. But imagine this. So Dick Honing, I don't know if you guys are Ann Arborites, you know who Honing is. Dick Honing was the largest sports apparel for referees in America.
Umpiring and all that.
Yeah. He was an umpire, and he was a Big Ten football college official for 30 years, did multiple national championship games, greatest guy in the world, but he played on the Michigan 1952 national championship baseball team. Okay. So he's sitting in front of us, the row in front of us. So in the game, Jimmy Kerr hits a double down the line. There's a guy on first base, one of our runners with 2 outs. And the instinct for my buddy stick in said, you got to score him. So imagine this. He's got a full beer. Okay. And he's like, you got to score him. And he's waving his arm. And then the kid comes in. I can't remember. It slides in and scores. And the entire beer is gone. And it's on Dick Honing in front of us. And we're just sitting there freaking. Here's a guy who's a multimillionaire, right? And we're just sitting there freaking out. Like
and he's like 85, right?
Yeah, he's 80 years old. His buddy, he's probably 90. I mean, like, it was hilarious. But he took it so in stride. He's such a good guy. But, yeah, the Omaha trip was fantastic. So,
I mean, I've always thought about it too. Like, just the way my wedding was planned, it didn't work out to like plan to go to a College World Series. But I feel like that would be an awesome place to go for a bachelor party, because it's like you got March Madness for college, and I think College World Series is like another thing that's followed a little bit better because you have games for what, 2 weeks?
yeah, and you hit it on the head, and it's literally. You can buy a ticket for $10. You can sit anywhere in the stadium. There's no ushers. The usher is a 16-year-old high school kid. They never look at your tickets. Like, literally, they have no idea what you're doing. And like you said, it's affordable, number one. It's outside. It's warm weather. There's people everywhere. The Southeastern teams, they tailgate like it's a football Saturday. I mean, they're going nuts. I mean, Mississippi State was tailgating. Florida State was tailgating. It was insanity. It was just a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a blast. It was something that where, when we left, people were like, hey, regardless if Michigan's in here or not, I would love to come back for a long weekend or something, or bring my dad back. It was that cool. So,
hey,
yeah.
I just set my date for my wedding, July 2022. So, that might time up pretty well for the bachelor party.
How many have you done that? Is that so? You've got 18 months to figure out whether or not you're going to bail on this whole nonsense.
Too much time to think, man. That's too much time
That
to think.
is way too much.
Oh, God.
You still got time.
Not even just
leave while you
the going
can.
part, but just now I have to think about the planning for every day for the next 18 months. I'm just like, holy shit. But that was
Corona. Corona's going to be around till 2030. So just be ready to postpone. So
exactly.
Big Gretch will make sure you postpone that thing. So don't you worry.
That was it was just crazy. That was literally the first date available for these places. It's already so fucking.
Honestly, I don't even want to deal with that. I can't imagine doing that nonsense. My wife's had some friends. Kaylin, are you single?
No, but I'm not married, and I'm going to keep it that way.
You're smart. See, he's the only smart one in the whole group. Like, literally the only smart one in the whole group.
Exactly.
But we've heard some people that are just to tell the stories about rearranging stuff, and I just couldn't imagine.
Oh, dude, it's a fucking mess. My wife and I, we were supposed to get married this past July on the west side of the state in Holland, and we ended up doing a small gathering locally, like in Pinckney, because their parents live out there. We did something in the backyard, but we're still we had to reschedule all the vendors, our DJ, the venue, all that stuff, and it's still we're fuck, can we even have our wedding? Do we have to do this again? It's a mess, man.
Yeah, I'm not excited for it. I mean, I pray to God that we're over it by July 2022. Because if not,
I think we're in some real trouble.
Yeah.
If that's not the case.
Yeah, 2 more years.
Yeah.
Fucking
Jesus.
So maybe I'll do a little Omaha trip for the bachelor party. We'll see. But
Wouldn't be a bad idea. You don't twist my arm.
There you go. Derek did call me right after my engagement. He goes, "Congrats on ending the rest of your life."
It's a good friend.
You want some encouragement. I mean, do you want reality, or do you want me to give you the fluff piece, or do you want me to give you the reality part? So.
All right. Well, let's get into it a little bit with some, obviously recent news for Michigan that we really haven't talked about yet on this podcast, and that is that Don Brown is out. He's no longer the defensive coordinator, which one thing that's kind of weird about the whole thing is that Bruce Feldman broke the news. Michigan has yet to release a statement on it and actually say he's gone. So I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I don't know why Michigan decides to deal with things these ways. but it's just so weird. But now he's, very heavily rumored to be Jed Fish's defensive coordinator at Arizona. But Derek, I know that you have been, since 2018, pretty anti-Don Brown, and everybody else kind of jumped on board. You seem to be like the first guy to the table there, and then everyone else in the past couple of years has jumped on board. So tell us why you got to that spot in 2018.
I look at it like this. Back in 2016, 17, 18, Harbaugh had an identity. Or the team had an identity, right? Run the ball, play action, big wide receivers, what they recruited for. However, maybe their quarterback really wasn't what that, required. But so then it gave me the idea of like, okay, we're playing bully ball. All right. They're the Baltimore Ravens of college football, right? Like beat up on all the terrible teams. But then when Lamar's got to go against somebody good, it's like, the guy's awful. I got to make you stand in the pocket, and on 3rd and 7, down by 4, on 4th down, you got to make a completion. That didn't happen. So I use that as an analogy in towards like the Don Brown situation. Was like, okay, look, this pressure defense, this pressure stuff is when you're in a lead, it's suffocating, right? Like we can do it. It's proved to be a total tone killer. But what really set me off was starting in 2018 was just like opening against good teams. Usually what would happen would be like an opening play drive. They'd go down 7-8 plays, and they'd score a field goal or touchdown, and then Don Brown would figure it out. And then the floodgates started happening. Like you had the games where it was like, okay, you're going down like with 3 plays in the first half, and like by the end of the first quarter, you're down 14-0, and you haven't even had time to breathe yet. And then that led me into the story of Dubai. I'm sitting there, and I'm, like I said, on my balcony, looking at the Burj Khalifa, my underwear, watching this game on a Reddit on my phone. And I'm just watching this defense get shredded, but we're still scoring points, right? We're not like completely out of the game. And like, yeah, there's special teams turnover. Stuff happens, like kids happen, right? But like for the most part, it was just a lack of, and the problem that I had was I just don't see it that it's a lack of talent. Like the NFL thinks these guys are good enough to play, right?
Right.
I'm looking at Mike Dana. I don't know 5 guys. I don't think America knows 5 guys on the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Outside of Kansas City, like Christian Jones, Tyrann Mathieu, maybe Alex Hitchens.
Frank Clark.
Right, just off the top. Yeah, Frank Clark. Right. Correct.
Michigan
like
guy.
A big play. Right. But then all of a sudden, Mike Dana, who's an undrafted free agent, is the new, like, he's like making these plays. Like I'm a Dolphins fan, and I'm watching the game the other 2 weeks ago, and he's like all over the field. He's the only guy playing in the first half. I'm like, this is insanity.
And same thing. I mean, obviously, Rashawn Gary was like what he was at Michigan, but he wasn't Chase Young, and now you watch him for the Packers, and it's the same shit. He's like all over the fucking place, and you're like, man, how did we not put him into a position to make those kind of plays in college?
Yeah, I mean, and look, like I've told you guys when we got in earlier, I'm not a football guy. I don't know anything. I just watch observations. Like I really do. Like I'm like, okay, if I'm watching like basketball or football, it's like, okay, that guy's really good. All right. That guy's much faster. And I think a lot of this stuff you can kind of see like in person. Like we all go to the games. I don't know about Jordan and or Jay and Kalen, but like when you watch, like you just see how big like Nico Collins is. Like in person, you're like, oh my God. Or you see how big Donovan Peoples-Jones is compared to a college corner, right? Like you just see these guys and how massive they are. Like, or Michael Onwenu, you're like, oh my Lord, dude, they're huge. And it's just like, I feel Michigan had so many personnel advantages, like in the sense of like defense too, and it just didn't equal into production for the last couple of years. And maybe I'm nuts, maybe I'm like crazy, but I was on it earlier because I'm like, dude, scoring's not the issue. We're scoring 9 points a game, and I just don't think it's a big deal.
I mean, I know you said, or I think we were talking before, you said 2018 Ohio State game. You're like, boom, ready, get rid of them. And like for me, I'm thinking like that had to be the first big blowout he had, right?
Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, if you
was
think
Penn
about
State
it,
also that. Well, no, that was
That was the year
2017.
before. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the Penn State
Jack,
game
you
the
and
year
me were
before,
hammered. So
the Penn State game the year before was the epitome of like my angry aggression towards my ex-husband for 12 months, and I get to see him in a corner, and I'm going to beat him in a body bag, and I'm going to send him to the morgue, and like
talk about talent. Penn State had unbelievable talent that year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only it was just like, and then it was the perfect storm, right? John O'Corn, the whole 9 yards. We know how we know how the story ends, or like I know how this movie ends, right? Like it's, and I think that's what you kind of saw, like jumping ahead. That's what you saw this year. Look at Indiana, all seniors, redshirt seniors, men. Just look at the physicality of Indiana. Just you never thought you'd ever say like, wow, that wide receiver is massive. Freifogel just dominating dudes. Like, doesn't matter if it's Daxton Hill or if it's Vincent Gray. The tight end just going over the middle, dominating guys. The running back just bigger than anybody on our team. Like, it's just crazy to see the thing. And that's what leads me into the identity of the offense, but then just leads into the blow up of the defense. And it was all downhill. So,
yeah, I think it's interesting because for Don Brown, I mean, when he got fired, the first thing that popped into my mind was that's the right choice. Like that needed to happen. But the second thing I thought was almost this like bittersweet feeling where I was remembering like 2016, the game, like right when he got hired, and just that like entire level of excitement I had for the whole program, where I was like, finally, we're taking another step in the right direction and we can solve the problem. But things just haven't seemed to work out. And I think Jack had a really good tweet that seemed to sum it up. And I can't remember exactly what you said, Jack, but it was in the same sentiment.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I was just saying, I mean, personally, I felt a little bit bittersweet about it, thought it was the right move. But, I mean, like you said, Kalen, 2016, what a fucking great year, other than shitting the bed in the last two games. But even those last two games were exciting to watch. Michigan was in it. I mean, you think of that Florida State game, they were down by, I don't know, fucking 2 touchdowns at one point and came back and got into it at the end of the game. I mean, it was just a fun team to watch. You thought everything was going up from there, and then 2017 happened, and the rest kind of followed.
What I wonder, though, is 2016 through 2018, was it just that Don Brown had unbelievable talent at pretty much every position? I mean, when you think about the guys he had on that field, it's like, how do you screw that up? Because like you said, Derek, like, yes, when Nico Collins and Donovan Peoples-Jones take the field, they have a size advantage. They have a talent advantage against pretty much everybody they go against. Don Brown's defense 2016 through 18, how many positions did Michigan have a talent advantage, size advantage, all that against anybody that they were going up against? And then we saw it in 2019 and 2020 definitely drop off in terms of that. And then you see, that's why they obviously didn't do as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just, start with Devin Bush, right? And he had an unfortunate injury in the game, obviously. But just put in, the whole situation with the crossing stuff again, dude, I'm not going to get into like exit. I don't know it. I'm the first one to admit it. Like I just use my observation. Like when I go to a hockey game at Michigan, when I was in school, Jack Johnson was there. He was like better than everybody. It's like, okay, that guy's on the ice twice as long, but because he's faster and bigger than everybody on the field, right? Or on the ice. Like, I don't know anything about it. I don't know what the blue line is, the red line. I don't know anything, but that guy's really good. And that's how I just viewed Michigan football. Like I have a little bit more competency, like in a weird way. When I'm in person, I watch the game. I'm like, okay, do we have 4 came off the sidelines, 4 came on? Do we have 11 guys on the field? Like, I'm weird that way. I tend not to drink that much terribly before games. Once Rich Rod took over, I started sneaking in copious amounts of alcohol and drank on that during the game to enjoy my misery. But yeah, I'm very shocked with the talent. All the way down to the Glasgow kid, getting picked, and obviously, even though he's a special teamer, he still has value in the NFL, and he's just a total gamer. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it. But I'm very intrigued to see where this goes with everything moving forward.
So you mentioned Devin Bush, and now we're looking at the most recent news was Cam McGrone has decided to forego his senior season and go to the NFL. And he's a guy that in his sophomore season looked unbelievable, looked like he was going to be the next Devin Bush, and we all expected that in his junior season. And I know he had injuries this past year, but I watched the film multiple times, and specifically on him, he looked not only lost, but he looked like he did not fill his gaps. He looked like he was slow and just all the above. And so, yes, he's got the body, and I'm sure some NFL team is going to say, hey, you've got the tangibles, we can make it work. But I think it's just kind of frustrating for Michigan fans to see that happen now. And it's happened quite a bit, more often than not, when a guy like Cam McGrone comes out, doesn't play as well in college. And then, I'm seeing it with Donovan Peoples-Jones right now. He's playing unbelievable for the Browns and, obviously wasn't utilized right at Michigan. And so it's like, was Cam McGrone the same thing? I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I'm glad you said you brought that up because I saw you tweeted it out, and I was thinking the same exact thing. I was like, man, I don't want to say anything negative, but really, is he ready to go to the NFL? Now, I know we talked about it preseason. I think Cam McGrone was like my guy to watch this year on defense. I'm like, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be Devin Bush 2.0. He's going to make all these plays. He looked so good last year, but this year it looked like he kind of shit the bed to me. So he's a guy I'm shocked he didn't come back for his last year unless he doesn't want to come back because Don Brown's gone. I don't know.
That's a good point too. Is does he want to go through a coordinator change as well? Who knows?
Yeah.
Derek, what do you think?
First off, this is going back to, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. I don't know like what he thinks as far as like the coordinator stuff and all that, how he's going to fit in. I just don't know if he wants to play football for Jim Harbaugh. Maybe that's the elephant in the room. Maybe he doesn't know who the head coach is going to be. Who knows? Maybe he's like, screw it. Like, I've got enough on film from 2 years ago when I was flying around the ball and I'm playing the greatest game of my life against Notre Dame, and like life is great, right? Like just all that kind of stuff. Maybe he thinks that and less is more. Or maybe he's saying, hey, I'm willing to be like a fifth round pick. Let me get to my second contract in the NFL and I'm going to roll with it, right? Because what's Cam McGrone? Like outside of a crazy season last year, Cam McGrone is what, a second round pick at best.
I don't even know.
Being fair, second or third. So, what's the difference between pick 96 or pick, 62? Right. Who knows? Whatever. But that's my only thinking on that. Maybe I'm way off, but.
I do think you bring up something very interesting there that I have heard as well, and that is that Harbaugh has rubbed some of those guys the wrong way, especially guys that have had serious injuries, that he has forced them or pressured them to be playing through injuries. I know that to be a fact for Rashawn Gary. Back in the, he was definitely pressuring Rashawn Gary to play through injury, and Rashawn was not ready, and it definitely hurt Rashawn's draft stock because he should have been a probably top 5 draft pick and dropped to 12. So I've heard the same thing for Dylan McCaffrey. Dylan McCaffrey was banged up. You almost you wonder what happened with Joe Milton this year too. It turns out he's got a cast on his arm. A week ago, and it's like, okay, when did that happen? Was Jim making him play through all of that too? So I think there's something to be said about Jim rubbing people the wrong way as well.
Yeah, totally.
We heard about, you brought it up with the wide receivers, right? Or at least Donovan Peoples-Jones. It seems to be some sort of trend.
Yeah. And which is why, in my opinion, it's like you have to take a deeper look at Jim Harbaugh and say, beyond the records, beyond that, which isn't even a good thing, but say, how is he treating his players? What are his relationships with his players? And how, I think that is what, a Matt Campbell has. You know, even if you go back to Brady Hoke, that's what Brady Hoke had. His players will freaking die for him, you know? And so it's like, how do we get the Brady Hoke relationship guy that actually knows how to coach a fucking football team, you know? And so you're trying to find the combination of those.
I mean, we still got a chance at Matt Campbell, guys. No deal's been signed yet. All right, I'm gonna still hold out hope.
Yeah.
So I've been on Campbell, and Justin will tell you. I don't know. You can talk to Brent, our buddy Brent, about this. I've been on Matt Campbell for 2 years ago. As soon as I was off the Tom Brown bandwagon, my only reason.
Are you sure you don't have a Twitter account? Are you Wolverine Corner?
Swear to God. But here's the problem. Here's why I'm on Matt Campbell. Okay, 2 reasons why. Two best, in my opinion, coaching jobs in my lifetime. Hear me out on this. In my lifetime, for college football, have been Mike Leach at Texas Tech, and at Pullman, Washington, at Washington State, and Matt Campbell. I've been to all 3 of those cities. To convince anybody to go to Ames, Iowa, and play college football. You guys, I don't know if you're. First of all, anybody ever been there?
No.
You couldn't pay me to go to Iowa.
There's 3 best things that ever. First off, Iowa City, most underrated town in the Big Ten. You need to go there when Michigan plays there next for football. Amazing. I actually went to college. Kirk Ferentz had 2 daughters, and he has got 2 boys. Obviously, both boys played at Iowa, played football. One's in the NFL, one's the offensive coordinator. Kelly Ferentz went to Michigan and lived in the house next to us when I was in school. Awesome girl, great family. He told all of his kids to go to Big Ten schools. But anyway, but I've been to Ames, Iowa. It is like a glorified Bowling Green, Ohio. And with all due respect, I grew up in Adrian, Michigan. We talked about this, right? Like,
very
I'm
similar.
not pissing on Bowling Green, Ohio, dude. Like, I love the original Mr. Spots is from Bowling Green.
Ooh.
Like, there's like amazing things in Bowling Green. Don't get me wrong, but like to win at that level at Ames or like Pullman, Washington. I've been to Pullman, Washington. It's the worst college city in America. I mean, there's nothing there. And that's why I've been on Matt Campbell. My reasoning for Matt Campbell is number one, he can coach, right? Number 2, he can obviously relate to kids. He can recruit, obviously. Number 3, I'm assuming his dream job was Ohio State, and the guy didn't even get a chance to interview for it, right? And that's my biggest one of like why this would be the perfect landing spot for a 39-year-old guy to come back and build a program and just say, go with it. That's me. So
I'm all in, man. I watched them play who'd they play in the Big 12 championship game?
Oklahoma.
And like you just watch him on the sideline, you honestly do get like vibes of Jim Harbaugh at the 49ers, and like he's got that vibe where he's fiery, he's all over the place, he's got, and obviously we haven't seen that Jim in fucking 5 years now, but I think he's got these guys, he's got his guys on a they are on board with everything he does. You watch his halftime and postgame and pregame speeches, and it's like, holy shit, man, I'd run through a brick wall for that guy. And so I don't know if there's anybody that's like wanting to run through a brick wall for Jim Harbaugh. And it's like the biggest thing for me, the biggest question is, okay, well, Jim Harbaugh has to turn it around immediately, right? There is no time for him to say, all right, we got to, rebuild or something like that. So do you think that Jim Harbaugh is the guy that's going to beat Ohio State in year 7, like after what's happened in the past 6 years? I don't think so. So you might as well just, it's the inevitable. Just fucking cut it off and then start new and go, even if it's not Matt Campbell, you just got to fucking get a change of scenery in and figure something else out, because it's not working, and it's, there's too much negativity going around and not much positivity.
Yeah, the biggest thing that has happened, because, it's holiday times. I've been at home more. I've had some time to think. And one thing that started to pop up more is name, image, likeness, right? With the NCAA coming up to vote on these things and these things starting to kick in, And knowing that Jim Harbaugh doesn't necessarily relate to players that well, it doesn't speak very well to me as a Michigan fan, because I'm going like, hey, Michigan, largest alumni network in the country, like that should be very easy for a coach to sell to a player. Hey, all these guys will be wearing your jersey. But knowing that Jim Harbaugh doesn't relate to players that well, and that kind of thing is going to be all over college
especially
football.
the star players. That's where he really
Yeah.
struggles mostly too.
That's one of the things that I've been thinking more recently, like, dang, this Jim, if you don't change and like fast, we're going to get left in the dust because the entire landscape of college football is changing.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, a guy that can relate to his players, a guy that shows fire. I mean, we've missed that from Harbaugh since what? I'll give him 2016 was the last time we probably saw it. But like that's the thing, he's losing. We're not seeing the fire. It feels like he just doesn't even want to coach at Michigan anymore, which I can't speak for that, but that's what it seems like from what I've seen. And when you see a guy like Matt Campbell who's winning in Ames, Iowa, he's young and he brings that fire and he's got a great culture at that university. It makes you just think, why is he not signed a contract already? Right. Again, I think there's still hope.
Or
I think there is still hope.
Not interviewed him, like or done your
research
to.
My conspiracy theory. I think maybe they do have some sort of hush hush deal with him. But I think, what do they play? 30th, 31st, New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like shortly after New Year's, there's got to be some sort of either Harbaugh's coming back or a new coach is coming in. But it's just hard to buy into Harbaugh when there's no fire, man. It's hard to buy in, especially after the year we saw.
You would think a lot of this would be done, and it just makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. I don't understand. I totally just. And here's the problem. Like I'm going to jump in to the next topic because I have to tell you. I mean, and I'm Justin. I'm sorry if I'm going to go off the rails, but like here's the thing. Okay, so let's use the realistic. Like, so you guys are how old, right? Let me
27.
Seriously, Justin. So you guys all 27, 28, whatever.
Yep.
All right, so think about it. You're lifers, right? Like I know Kalen went to Purdue. You probably love Purdue basketball and Robbie Hummel, and I get it.
Robbie.
Like, why wouldn't you love a guy and Brian Cardinal, who you don't even know, that we used to wear knee pads in college, like this. He had those Patrick Ewing knee pads on, and the guy could ball, right? Like just totally just dominating in Big Ten play. And earned 7 years in the NBA, just wearing a ski mask and a gun, stealing paychecks from multiple teams, just absolute paycheck bandit. But like you guys are lifers, and here's where I think there's a huge issue, like the culture issue of Michigan, and where I go from this. Now think about this. So like we're all locals. You've got 51% of the schools from the state. Okay. You've got 49% of them that are not from the state, where you have like a situation where Ohio State has 70% of the kids from Ohio. Everybody's pulling the same way, right? Like it matters to them that Ohio State football is the value of winning. I guess that's my point is, what is the value of what we're going to do going forward? The value of everybody pulling together and winning. Where I say Michigan has a culture problem, it's like, all right, so let's just be fair. Like since 2008, it's been a bad product for the most part. Outside of a couple of random years, a lot of people are paying a lot of money for tickets to an inferior product. I do it because I had the greatest experience of my life. I was able to, it's my way of giving back. I love going to it. It's my 7 Escape Saturdays, kind of like Justin. We talk about the tailgating and everything that goes along with it. But the cultural issue of the valuing of how good the football program is to be is I don't know where it's at Michigan. And I really mean that. Like my wife and I get in an argument about it. She's like, the next year, everybody's going to come back because people want to tailgate and do stuff post-corona. I agree with that. I actually really, really concur with that. However, after that, I mean, like some people might not want to go into the game. They maybe just want to have beers with their friends. Maybe they're not going to support a product where I'm paying X amount of dollars and it's like, look, I'm just here to drink beers and barbecue. And there's nothing wrong.
And to add to that, the next generation who's never seen Michigan win. I don't know if that's what you were getting at.
Yeah, and that's my point leading into that. So now you have somebody who graduated, let's just say 2012. They're now 30 years old, okay? Let's say they live in Metro Detroit. They're now married. They're starting to establish their career. They're starting to have disposable income. They have zero emotional and connection with Michigan football.
Yeah.
Those are your donors.
God.
Those are your fan bases, right? Those are all the people that are going to make you be successful moving forward. You know what they do have a connection with? Michigan basketball, right? All of a sudden, they're awesome. Where when I'm growing up, I've got the Fab Five, and then I've got from 1998 just shit all the way until Beeline shows up.
Right.
Like horse shit. I've got Brian Ellerby. You guys are in diapers. You don't know who Brian Ellerby is. I've got Tommy Amaker, my senior year in college. He starts off his opening season presser with, I hope our team accomplishes 3 things. I want us to be happy, I want us to be healthy, and I want us to be hungry. Are you fucking kidding me? And that's what his fucking 3 goals were for the fucking season. Not, I want to win a Big Ten championship. Not, I want to make the NCAA tournament. I want to be happy, healthy, and fucking hungry.
Oh,
I mean, in his mock turtlenecks, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? The arena. Have you guys ever been in freaking Chrysler before they redid it? It was a fucking dungeon. It was terrible. I used to run laps in that thing in the morning at 5 a.m. Okay, hungover, vomiting in the corner, and probably nobody picked it up because it was just like, oh, that smell belongs here. Like, it was a total. So I had zero connection with Michigan basketball outside of the Fab Five, right? And then all of a sudden it all flips, and it's like we can all agree we're all from here. This state, in fairness, is a way better high school basketball state than it is a football state. Let's be point blank. The basketball talent that comes out of this state on a year in and year out basis that goes everywhere is nuts. It's crazy, right? Like it's really, really deep. And Beeline did it for the most part, recruiting kids from out of state, which is even fucking more insane.
Yeah.
If you really think about it. But that's my thing. I think Michigan's in real trouble with that. And I just look at the long-term aspect of that. And that's where I'm at. And I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but that's what really worries me about the program going further.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. And the reason why is it hasn't been just 5 years that Michigan's had, a couple down years or something like that. We're going on 2 decades, right, of only beating Ohio State, twice in 2 decades or whatever it is, 18 years. And so it's not like it's just like that's an entire generation. That truly is an entire generation that now sees Michigan as for the better half of the last 2 decades, getting dominated by not only Ohio State, but also Michigan State. And so when you're talking about the Midwest and Michigan, the state of Michigan recruiting and all that, this up and coming generation that is going to be the next fan base is not looking at Michigan as a dominant, team. They maybe get to, like 2016 and 2018, they're up there in the top 5 and in the discussion, but by the end of the year, they're not making it past that, the 5 or 6 seed in the college football playoff or whatever it is. And so, I'm very worried about that for the future too. And, it's just going to be, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take quite a bit of winning to get over that. And you're going to have to, the problem is you're now going up against the literal best team in the country in Ohio State, or one of, and the top recruiting class in the country as well for not only this year, but next year and probably the year after. And it's like, you've dug yourself into this hole over the last 2 decades where now you have to go up against the best of the best that is your rival. And you can't beat them. You can't compete with them. You aren't even on the same playing field with them at this point.
Yeah, and it's not just the ticket holders and the donors who might not remember a time when Michigan could beat Ohio State. Now it's the players. I think about it. A kid who's 18 years old
Oh yeah.
literally hasn't seen us beat Ohio State in a like not down Ohio State year, not a 2011 year, right?
Right. Like at least us, we can remember like John Navarre, Chris Perry, Braylon Edwards, Steve Breston, Mario Manningham.
I was a
Chad
sophomore in high school. You guys are, I mean, college. You guys are the worst. You know that? You made me feel so old. You guys are terrible.
Well, I wish I was in college when I was watching those teams, though. I mean,
It was-
could you
that had to
imagine
be
being at
so fucking
scorekeepers
fun.
watching that game, just going fucking nuts, man?
Oh man.
No, and that's what my point being is like I've been to 2 Rose Bowl games when I was a student. You know, like I had 2 buddies living in California that were on the baseball team. They were super nice. The families were nice. We flew out after Christmas, pre-corona. I like to get that jab in, and it was the greatest experience of my life. My grandparents actually had a chance to. If you hang with me here, my grandmother's brother was one of the 5 people that created the University of Michigan hospital system.
Wow.
Holy
So
shit.
he literally came in, and so my grandparents went to a million Rose Bowls, like in the 70s and the 80s, on the university dime. So I'll never forget when in 2003 when Michigan beat Ohio State, I got to go to the Rose Bowl. My grandma paid for my flight. She was like, "Look, this is, what you need to do. Like, you need to go do this because this is like part of like what I want." And like, I look at that now as my family. I mean, as I'm getting older, I'm like, my goal is, and I don't think this should be unrealistic, but my goal is like, hopefully, Michigan goes to 2 or 3 Rose Bowls the remainder of my life. I don't think that's asking for that much. Beat Ohio State every 5 or 6 years, right? Nothing too outrageous. Like I'm not delusional to think that this is going to happen every year. I think that we all get that. But those are the feelings, those are the things that are memories that you want that are just non-existent for your age group, which is terrible. That's why I feel awful. Like that's the worry part of me is going further.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, but you bringing up the Rose Bowls. I remember it was either 03 or 05. My like last like really exciting memory of like Michigan football. I remember like going to the store, getting like the Michigan versus USC Rose Bowl matchup T-shirt.
Say the same
Oh
thing,
my
dude.
God! If I still had that shirt, like I remember the memory. I was probably
I do too.
10 or 11 at that 10, 11, 12 at that time, and just being like. It must have been 03 because that was like Chris Perry, John Navarre, like my favorite team ever.
It was the 04
Rose Bowl.
on
Yep.
January 1st. So
Yep. But I remember getting that shirt and just being so excited to watch that team play in the Rose Bowl, man.
I remember
Nothing like it.
I completely agree. I can't believe you said that because I literally have a memory of walking into Meijer and making my mom buy me this gray hoodie that was it had the helmets on it and the Rose Bowl date, and like that was Michigan football because that was just like expected kind of at that time. Michigan was dominant, and now like literally since then Michigan hasn't fucking sniffed a Rose Bowl. They have literally not even smelled the roses. So it just like I don't. When have you guys even thought about obviously the Rose Bowl is different now because it's part of the college football playoff and, blah, blah, blah. But like, when was the last time you guys thought like, oh, Michigan has a chance to play in the Rose Bowl this year? It was that moment, I feel like, that I felt, that Michigan had a chance.
Yeah, because 2011, we didn't win the Big Ten, right? Like it was.
Oh, no. It was just.
Because there wasn't even a champion. Was there a championship game then?
No, it was a split. Michigan State shared it with who? Didn't Michigan State share it or no? Did Ohio State
shared
win
it with Wisconsin?
That's right. It was no, there was. Wasn't that the first year of the championship?
That was the
game?
first year. Yeah, that was the
you're
first
right,
year.
Wisconsin won on the like block punt or whatever, and they won. They went to the Rose Bowl.
I think that was like the most unbelievable Big Ten championship game of all time. That was like an insane game.
And then they went and they got steamrolled by old Andy Dalton and the Texas TCU
baby.
Frog 'em.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like, this is a fucking depressing conversation, but it's realistic. It really is.
Now,
it's like,
now let me jump up to one thing let's be fair here.
All right.
Okay, outside of like a couple of things that have gone bad, we talk about this is a historic run for Ohio State, right?
Right.
Let's be fair. Ohio State doesn't know who their quarterback's going to be next year. Okay?
True.
Imagine if Tate Martell's the quarterback in 2018, right? I'm thinking about like all the things that have fallen their way, right?
Yep.
Zero injuries to their main stars. I can't remember the last time a star for Ohio State has missed a significant game or multiple significant games.
Even in 2014, it was like injuries happened and Cardale Jones just fucking somehow.
Yeah, like the greatest
quarterback.
Right,
pulls
might
up-
be the greatest. Like Kalen said, probably is the greatest coaching job in the history of college football.
Right, because
To
he
win,
did literally
he
nothing
played-
after those 3 games.
He literally played 3.5 quarters. Remember, he had to come in at halftime in the Michigan game. So the
Yep.
guy played first 3.5 games, right? But maybe J.J. McCarthy's the dude. You don't know. I mean, that's how quick this could change. I really mean that. Like, I mean, let's be fair. What next year on Ohio State outside of the receivers scares you? Nothing.
True.
Coaching staff.
The fucking
Okay,
5-star freshmen they're getting in at quarterback, I'll tell you, they fucking scare me.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, so all that stuff scares you, but you don't know. I mean, I'm going to take my chance with a 5-star freshman quarterback over maybe our 5 stars just as good. I mean, who knows?
Right.
True.
Yeah,
You've duped me for the last time. I'll believe it when I see it.
No, and I agree with that. My point being is though, is it looks so far away? I don't think it's as drastic as we think it is. That's college football, right? Like a play here, a play there. Like I can go through a million games where it's like, okay, that game's close, and then all of a sudden it's a blowout because of 2 or 3 things, a block punt or a drop snap, and you're like, oh shit, and then it just snowballs, and you're like, okay, was it really that big of a difference? And you're like, no, not really.
We even talked about this before. Like honestly, even in 2020 for Michigan, like they were times in each game that they could have, a couple plays go a different way. And like Michigan State, 100%. It's literally like 3 plays. And then Indiana, like there was a couple plays, even Penn State, like you're definitely correct on that, where things can go a different way. But Michigan just seems to always be on the losing end of that for whatever reason.
I agree with that. 100%. 100% I agree with that. I just think it like, I mean, my last big thing for the thing, and I'll just tell you because I got it on my mind, and I'm almost through an entire bottle of Evan Williams eggnog. And I consider you guys better be Planet Fitness. This better be a fucking judgment-free zone.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Of course.
So you better not fucking judge on any of that. But my point being is, as I look at this, is as far as it is away, like where the only thing that's been crazy and the one thing that's been nuts about this whole Michigan State, Ohio State situation for like the last decade to me has been when those guys have needed to play their best, for the most part they have. Rocky Lombardi's a fucking Heisman Trophy winner this year. And the fucking guy transfers to Northern Illinois. And he's probably going to shove it down our fucking ass in week 3 next year. Right? Like the guy like comes out of nowhere. Ricky White making fucking catches coming out of his ass. Right? Like just unreal stuff that doesn't happen. And that is what's so surprising. Like last thing, I'll never forget. I'm literally in line flying to Dubai for the honeymoon, and I'm watching the Ohio State-Maryland game the week before our game in 2018.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Anthony McFarland. God bless him. He's probably on the practice squad of the fucking who in the fuck knows whatever team in the NFL, just running all over Ohio State. And I'm like, this is going to not only is this going to be a reckoning next week. Like, holy shit, we're going to win. Right. But it's just when they needed them the most, they showed up. And Urban even said that. If you guys don't know that, Urban even said that on the podium at the Rose Bowl when they won the Rose Bowl game. He was like, when I needed our guys for the last 6 years, they showed up in the biggest spots. And it was crazy. And that's kind of how Ohio State and Michigan State's done the same thing to us. You know, I mean, really, if you think about it, like, hey, 2015, they kept the game close. They kept it close, right? It was fucking – and obviously you have a crazy ending, and you'll never see that ever again in college football. But the fact that they kept it close, there was never this thing where this feeling where we're out of it. And that's where Michigan's got to get to. We've got to stay in the fight and not get the knockout punch with 7 minutes to go in the second quarter where you don't have any chance. And that's the difference of the Michigan football program compared to Northwestern, compared to Ohio State, compared to just the belief and kind of what Kalen said, the belief that we can do this. There has to be some sort of time. There has to be a belief as a player, as a team, that you can figure this out. And maybe the psycho JJ McCarthy, as my friends like to tell me, this guy's a fucking crazy lunatic on social media. Maybe this is the fucking guy that we need. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I mean, he came out, what was it, like 2 days ago and said that the future means national championships for Michigan. And I'm sitting here like, I've heard this before, but I will say, like, something about him makes me believe him more than – and maybe it's just me being a fucking loser Michigan fan that
Probably
will believe anybody who says that.
Sure.
And I know that that's half of it, 100%. But there's something about him that does make me think, like, maybe he could be that guy. And the one thing I'll say one more thing and let you go, Kalen. But like the one thing to your point, Derek, like Michigan has been so close, but I think back to those Michigan State runs under D'Antonio and Ohio State and like a lot of these just in general in sports. Michigan basketball has had it too. They haven't had those magical moments of like, how the fuck did that happen? Every time that there's a magical moment in a Michigan football game, it's going not their way, right? It's the block punt against MSU. It's the spot. It's like everything happens somehow magically not their way. It's like somebody made a deal with the devil, and maybe Jim Harbaugh is the fucking devil, so that's the reason. But like Michigan has never had a Jordan Poole Houston shot on the football side, right? It's
Trey-Burke,
like,
Kansas. I mean,
right, like
all the big moments are happening in basketball.
I think about like the plays that Michigan State has made under D'Antonio to make those Big Ten runs, and like fucking Kirk Cousins to Keith Nickel against Wisconsin in the end zone, and like Hail Mary. Like, how does this shit happen for other people and then it just doesn't happen for us? So it's like there definitely is just some luck in the world. And Michigan has gotten itself under Jim Harbaugh actually to be at the spot where like things can go either way and they just never go their way.
We are unluckiest program in like all of college football at this point. Like I'm honestly thinking of like 2013 Auburn. Do you remember how lucky that team was? They beat Georgia because the ball like bounced off some guy, went into receiver's hands, boom. All of a sudden they're playing for SEC championship, right? Yeah. Then the kick six happens against Alabama.
Jameis Winston in Florida State, like they went undefeated somehow and were the worst team in like half their games. Yeah.
Right. And so like I feel like we're the team that they're playing. Like all the time.
Every time.
It's just like, and we could be doing everything right. We're like, wow, we're having a great game, even though it's really close. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, Zeus throws a lightning bolt down and BPJ trips. You know, you're like, what the hell? What just happened? We just lost the game. And I just feel like that all the time when we're playing well. And then when we're playing not well, it's like, we're really not playing well to the point where we're just getting blown away. So if we could just like, you know, we just need to find Jack, you need to call up your Notre Dame guys and grab one of those leprechauns because we need to be like rubbing the leprechaun's head.
Give him a fucking noogie down in the basement.
Yeah, getting some of that luck on our team.
Oh, that's funny. No, but you're right. I think a lot of it is, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm assuming you guys all play sports, but it's a belief. Right? I mean, a lot of it is. It's like, hey, we're good. We're just as talented. I don't know, man. I'm not going to bring up my old-time war stories and talk to you about how I thought I could, you know, capture Mount Rushmore or, you know, whatever by myself or climb it, you know, any of that kind of. But it just seems to me that, like, hey, you know, and that gets me into, like, the entitlement. You know, is there a massive entitlement at Michigan?
Very good point.
There could be a huge entitlement. I mean, the school's changed. I mean, I was there last year for the 2006 for the Notre Dame game. I had friends fly in, and it was hilarious. We went on campus, and the fucking school's got a fucking Soul Cycle. I didn't even know what Soul Cycle was until my wife was like, "Oh my God, do you believe this? They have a fucking Soul Cycle." And I was like, "What is that?" She's like, "Imagine Peloton on steroids," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, I didn't even know what Peloton was at that point. And then, like, I didn't even know what that shit was. Like, but, like, it's just different, right? It's a whole different feel. Like, I remember still trying to scheme on chicks at Rick's where, like, okay, everybody's wearing blue jeans and the same slutty black tank top. And, like, okay, your makeup's definitely awful for a 21-year-old girl, but we're going to go home later on tonight. Like, I've got a feeling that, like, I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I got a feeling it's just like these fake girls that are, or guys that are worried about Instagram or worried about everything that's other than what's the objective at hand. And that's just my theory on it. Maybe because I don't see that in the baseball program. And Justin knows I mean, Eric Bakich what he's done has been unbelievable. And I really mean that, but like, it's just, he's not like the best with the alumni. And I'm not saying he's terrible, but I'm just saying, like, but he made an identity for his program.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that with V-Line, and you kind of see that, just the kind of the Karis LeVerts, right? Use him as the perfect example, right? Like, just use those guys and the Trey Burks and those guys, just unassuming grinders that are going to go out and, just figure it out. And that's kind of what we're missing.
You know what's peculiar about all that under Jim Harbaugh is I feel like he was the guy when he played for Michigan, even when he was in the NFL, he was that guy that believed in himself so much that he felt like he could conquer the world. So it's weird that he can't convey that feeling to his team at this point. And it almost felt like he did that at Stanford, and he did that at the 49ers. He willed himself to the Super Bowl, willed himself to the Rose Bowl for Stanford. And it just seemed like that was his mantra throughout his athletic career and now his coaching career. And then he gets to Michigan, and it feels like they don't have that identity. There's no, like, we believe no matter what, whether we're down 14 with 2 minutes left, we still can win this football game. It's like, if we get down 7 in the first quarter, well, might as well pack it in, because it just kind of seems like we're not the better football team today.
Kalen, I'm going to go to you. Like, think about it. You're an alumnus of a program that has just as many wins against Ohio State in the last 8 years.
True. As
any school in the conference. Think about that. I mean, that's a truly remarkable statistic, right? So it shows you that it can happen. That's my point. Like, it shows you that, shit, the ball bounces the right way one day, and it can all come together, and everything can go your way, right? Like, it really does. And that's what's shocking about it. Like, I just don't understand how that hasn't been able to happen. But, we can always have hope, and that's the beauty of these things and sports, and that's it.
I think
what makes Derek, Derek, like you said, 2016, ball bounces the right way. Ref spots the ball an inch short. I mean, where is Michigan's program right now? If that goes Michigan's way, I mean, they've probably been to a couple playoffs at that point, I'd assume.
Yeah. It's crazy, dude, how sports work.
It's so fucking depressing to think about. God damn.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
It makes it even more difficult for us, though, because, yeah, you're right. Like, Purdue has beat Ohio State a number of times. But when Ohio State comes into West Lafayette, they usually don't have their guard up. They're like, oh, we're just going to come in here. And, Purdue's looking to ruin their season, which they've had the opportunity to do a few times, thankfully. But when they come to the Ann Arbor, or when Ann Arbor comes to them, they are like ready for war. That's their Super Bowl.
Well, you know what? If you want to be a fucking elite program, you better be ready for war every fucking day, dude. Like, that's just the deal. Like, do you think Nick Saban goes into any game thinking, oh, we can just run through this team. No, like they're ready for war every fucking day. Clemson and Dabo have the same thing. So that's where I agree with you. It's tough. It's tougher for Michigan to like dig out of the hole because of that, because Ohio State's going to be ready for that game, right? No matter what. But Michigan doesn't seem like they're ready for that game ever.
No, they don't.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like it's just I don't get it. I don't mean that's here's what's crazy. I'm gonna go to like just jump to something that's crazier. You have like Big Ten basketball this year. Michigan State has been an abortion. They literally are an abortion. They are pulling them out in third trimester, and this is not healthy. They are a sign. They are a sign at the corner of Michigan Stadium in Maine of a guy showing you an abortion picture before you walk into Michigan Stadium, like preaching to you. They're awful, right? They're terrible.
They're bad.
Is anybody worried about Michigan State basketball? No. You don't hear one. I got a million friends that are Sparties, and they're like, whatever. It's going to be fine. I look up in Vegas this morning. All I do now is I gamble degenerately and wait for my child to arrive and bet their savings on the over on the Monday night game tomorrow night. But, I mean, like, it's like all I'm thinking about. So I look it up today, and I listen to the Brett Musburger VSiN network every morning. Michigan State is still the third highest pick to win the conference, and they're 0-3.
Holy shit.
So think about that. So now even gets even better. So you have Wisconsin's 1, and they lost. Okay, and then Illinois' 2, and then Michigan State's 3. Michigan's 5. They're not even 4th.
That's crazy.
They're not even 4th.
And they're playing the best ball of anybody in the conference. Even like Iowa just obviously got exposed a little bit. I mean, they get exposed every day on their defense, but they finally got exposed and got beat. Wisconsin just got exposed and beat by Maryland, who Michigan plays now. And it's like, how are they still 5th when they're playing by far the best basketball of anybody in the conference?
It's crazy. It's nuts.
That's what I love about basketball season, man. More games, less games matter. I mean, like you said, Derek, Michigan State can start off the conference 0-3 and still be one of the favorites to win it.
It's crazy.
Michigan football goes 0-3, and they're calling for the coach's head, right? No matter who it is.
0-1. Like, say they say they start the Big Ten conference 0-1. It's like over, right?
It's just crazy.
Basketball.
It's just crazy, man. I don't get it. I just don't understand it, but it's just funny.
Well, we have not been able to, I had hoped that we could get just some answers, on why things are the way that they are, but it doesn't sound like we have any answers, and we never will have answers, because it's just perplexing on how the hell we are where we are with Michigan football in 2020 after 6 years of Jim Harbaugh. And it's just like, it kind of feels like Michigan football is the same as Corona. It's like we're just like way too far into Corona, and you still don't have a solution, and we're still like not in a good spot. There's still no light at the end of the tunnel. With Michigan football, we're 6 years into Jim Harbaugh. There's still no light at the end of the tunnel of like, oh yeah, we're gonna be good one day. And so it's just like, holy shit.
Just need that Operation Warp Speed and get the Michigan football vaccine going.
Yeah, get the vaccines going into Michigan football to save the day.
I love that you compared fucking Michigan football to the coronavirus.
to the biggest
That's amazing.
The biggest pandemic since 1918. Yeah, I mean, I'm
We're
not. Am I wrong?
infected.
Am I wrong?
It is an infection. I can't get it out.
I feel like
that's the sad thing. Is you're not wrong. With Michigan, we got to hold out hope. Hopefully, everything's gonna be normal again soon.
Exactly. Michigan football is
been holding out hope for fucking 8 years.
Michigan football has officially been put on a ventilator somewhere inside of fucking Ann Arbor city limits, and they're FaceTiming their friends right now, hoping to God to survive.
Exactly.
Big Grudge about to shut us down.
But you know what I mean, though.
Yeah, exactly. No, that was a great way to end it. We'll end it there. You can. I was gonna say you can follow Derek Feldkamp, but you can't because he's a
no. You can't.
Not on
no, you can't.
Here's the thing. Okay,
so I've gotten older in life. MySpace?
No, bud. I was on Facebook back when only college kids could have Facebook.
Wow.
Oh,
Back in my
Think
day.
about that. Think
didn't
about
realize that was a thing.
04. I think Facebook came out in 03. I think it was 03. I'm pretty sure it was 03. And then literally it was a dating app in college. It literally was like, what's your relationship status? Was it single?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and it was like a huge deal. That was like the first thing of like, okay, online dating, which was fucking wild.
You on Friendster?
Nah, dude, I'm not shit.
My
Dude, I'm
state.
not fucking. I met my wife on Bumble. I mean, how about that?
There you go.
Hey, I finally, long time listener, first time caller. I finally put my wife's like, she's like, it's good that you're tall. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, girls like that. I'm like, okay. She's like, yeah, you need to put that on your like profile. Like put down your height, and that's it.
I like you because you're tall, but I don't like you enough to come back. So
Well, but it's
here's how to
hilarious.
improve.
But I still did. I put down 6'4", and then ... Apparently that matters. And my world changed. It was incredible. I'm like, I have nothing else going on for me in my life. So
Note to self: you put your height on your dating profile, and you'll
there
have a
you
kid on
go.
the way.
There you go. See? We were love at first sight. There you all matches and all worked out. So there you go.
Love it. Love it.
Good.
Well, we'll probably, you know what? We'll have you back on for sure. Hopefully
Yeah.
soon. I think we should have you as a regular, like leading up to football. Because I know, Derek will call me sometimes and just like out of the blue be like, dude, I got to talk to you about fucking Don Brown, man. And like, we'll just go off on it. So we might as well save those takes for the podcast because they are great takes. And you've got about as many stories as anybody I've ever met. So
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate you guys having me on. It was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. And I promise you, I'll drink this or not more next time I'm on, and I'll get a little bit more loose.
I'm intrigued now, man. I've got to get that Evan Williams eggnog.
So here's the deal. So, all right. So I've lived a lot of places. I lived in Australia. I lived in Bozeman, Montana. Okay. I've lived in Fort Myers, Naples, Florida. My buddy in Fort Myers, Naples, I started drinking this before I moved back to Michigan. And it's like, he's like, dude, he's like, this is really fucking good. So we put some cinnamon. It's $7. $7 at Meyer. Okay. You can't go wrong. This is the greatest.
Are you mixing it? What are you mixing it with?
No, it's already mixed.
Oh shit. All right.
It's already got the whiskey in it.
That's fantastic.
You just literally shake it. That's why I was shaking the whole thing the whole time. You just put it on ice.
That's
amazing.
$6.99 at Meyer.
Hey, I used to drink Evan Williams cherry back in college. Had some great
dude, you would
times.
think
I'm
like
open
this-
to Evan Williams.
And I hate brown liquor. I can't do it.
Literally. Hey, how about this? This is what I love about Derek. He was like, I got to go on a diet for the summer. I got to stop drinking. I'm done drinking beer. Only drinking vodka. Only
Dude,
vodka
I had
soda.
such a good body this summer post Corona. I was going into it. It was such on a high note going up. I've got some pictures and angles that my wife took, and I don't even have social media, but she's like, man, these were like really good on a dating profile. Like I can only imagine. I mean, it was just so going up. Just the lack of carbonation was huge.
You send me those pictures.
Now that's
I
just
can
right out
tweet
the
them
window.
out.
Yeah, you should. I've got stuff from the Maldives for the honeymoon where it's like, dude, if this ever goes bad, honey, I'm putting these on the dating profile, and I am sure this is like a layup. I mean, this is a fast break, open-ended Trey Burke layup finger roll. Like, this is a no-brainer. Like, I am saving these things for sure. So,
I've got this this Blue Moon mango wheat too.
Oh, yeah.
Very good as well.
So every time I see Justin, he's drinking. Just let you know that.
Well,
Yeah, most
So-
times.
same to you bitch. What
Yeah.
the fuck are you talking about?
No, I know. I'm just saying. I see you at the bar. I see you at the golf course.
Well, yeah.
Hey, Derek,
you act like you're not
shortly
drinking it.
after. I was gonna say shortly after you brought up how the SEC, like Southern teams, are tailgating down in the College World Series. I texted these guys. I was like, man, we got to make tailgate all sports like a thing. Like basketball games, baseball
Yeah.
games, fucking soccer, field hockey. I don't care.
Fuck it. Give me a
Anything
reason
to
to
have,
drink.
anything to
go.
go
Cross
tailgate.
country.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, it's unbelievable. You know what? Here, I mean, I'll just tell you, like, dude, it's crazy how amazing, like, the facilities are now compared to when I was in school. Like,
Yeah.
dude, that's not been that long ago. That's 15 years. It's
Like
14
the
years. Like,
soccer field, the
oh
lacrosse,
my
like
God.
cross country, like all those.
Yeah, dude, this is nuts. This is insane. We got lights. I'll never forget. We got lights in baseball. A rich guy donated lights named Fred Wilpon, who used to own the Mets.
Right. Yeah.
He don't know. He did. He donated lights for the Ohio for softball and for us for baseball. And when the hockey season in 2005 got canceled because of the holdout, the lockout, ESPN needed games to put on TV. So we got to play Ohio State underneath the lights. And it was the coolest thing in the world. It was the day after exams. It was snowing sideways. I've never been more cold. We were warming up in Oosterbaan. We saw a TV guy from ESPN who was literally just bitching in the corner of Oosterbaan, being like, I've got to do this fucking game from the outfield, like dead center field.
Oh my God.
And he's like, I'm like, hey, dude, is this game going to happen? He's like, yeah, man, this is on national fucking TV. This for sure is fucking happening. Like, and I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, none of us wanted to play. Like, we were fucking, dude, you were pissing Slurpees. Okay. I mean, you're fucking so cold.
Oh my
You couldn't
God.
even, like, you had no idea what you were doing. And yeah, it was so awesome because everybody was going fucking bonkers. Kids have been drinking, tailgating all day long. Our alumni were down the third base line just giving the fucking left fielder shit like I've never seen. Like, just
That's
in
awesome.
his ear. And it was a blast. And then now it's just that you have that action for everything at Michigan. So
Love it.
it's a great thing.
Well, you can catch us tailgating just about everything. We should make it like we're gonna be those losers at like a fucking women's lacrosse game, just like drinking beer. Like we should just make it a goal to tailgate every single sport or something.
Oh yeah,
Oh, it'd be great.
let's do it.
All right. Well, you can follow us at Blue by 90 on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on YouTube at Blue by 90 Podcast. We'll have Derek back on here for some more hot takes and fun stories here soon. But thank you for listening, and go Blue.